Rain hammered against the cracked windshield as Maya pressed one trembling hand to her swollen belly, the other clutching her phone. 6 months pregnant, and she'd never felt more alone. The voicemail from Derek, her boyfriend of 3 years, played on repeat in her mind. "I can't do this anymore. I'm not ready to be a father. I'm sorry." She stood outside the dingy apartment building in the poorest part of the city, mascara streaking down her cheeks, when headlights suddenly blinded her. The screech of tires. A black sedan careened around the corner, far too fast for the narrow street. Maya barely had time to scream before the impact sent her flying backward onto the wet pavement. Pain exploded through her body as her head cracked against the concrete. Through blurred vision, she saw the car's brake lights flare red, then watched in disbelief as it sped away into the night. "My baby," she whispered, wrapping both arms around her stomach. "Please, God, my baby." Footsteps approached. Multiple sets. Maya tried to focus on the figures surrounding her, their expensive shoes now visible through the rain. Italian leather. The kind Derek could never afford even when he'd promised her the world. "Boss, we need to move her." "Call Dr. Russo, now." The voice was deep, commanding, and edged with something that made Maya's breath catch despite her pain. Authority. The kind that expected immediate obedience. Strong hands slid beneath her, lifting her as though she weighed nothing. Maya's eyes fluttered open to see a face that belonged in movies. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her soul. And an expression of such controlled fury that she instinctively knew this man was dangerous. "Stay with me," he commanded, his accent unmistakably Italian. "You're safe now." Safe? The word seemed absurd. She'd just been hit by a car, abandoned by her boyfriend, and now she was being carried by a stranger who looked like he could kill someone with his bare hands. But something in his voice made her believe him anyway. Maya's world went dark. She woke to the smell of antiseptic and the steady beep of medical equipment. Her hands immediately went to her belly, and she nearly sobbed with relief when she felt the gentle flutter of movement beneath her palms. "Your baby is fine. Strong heartbeat. No signs of distress." Maya turned her head to see an older man with silver hair and kind eyes adjusting an IV beside her bed. But her attention was drawn past him to the man standing by the window, silhouetted against the city lights. The one who'd caught her. "Where am I?" Her voice came out hoarse. "My private medical facility," the dangerous man said without turning around. "You have a mild concussion, some bruising, but you and your child will recover fully." He paused, then added in a tone that sent chills down her spine, "The driver who hit you won't." "Who are you?" He finally turned to face her, and Maya could see him clearly now. Mid-30s, expensive 3-piece suit, and an intensity in his gaze that made her feel simultaneously protected and exposed. He moved toward her bed with the fluid grace of a predator. "My name is Dante Moretti," he said simply, as though that should explain everything. It did. Even Maya, who avoided the news and lived a quiet life working double shifts at a diner, knew that name. The Moretti family controlled half the city's underground operations. Dante Moretti wasn't just dangerous. He was legendary, ruthless, untouchable. The kind of man her mother had warned her about since she was old enough to understand what the word Mafia meant. "Oh God," she breathed. "I can't be here. I need to leave." "You're not going anywhere." His tone left no room for argument. "Not until Dr. Russo clears you, and not until I find out who did this to you. It was an accident, just some drunk driver." "It wasn't an accident." Dante pulled a chair beside her bed and sat, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "The car that hit you belongs to Derek Harmon, your boyfriend, according to the wallet I found in your purse." "The same Derek Harmon who owes my associate Marcus $50,000 in gambling debts." Maya's heart stopped. "What?" "He's been playing poker in my establishments for 6 months, losing badly. making promises he couldn't keep. Dante's expression darkened. 2 days ago, Marcus gave him an ultimatum: pay up or face consequences. Tonight, Derek tried to run. You were standing in front of his getaway car. The room spun. Derek had been gambling, losing money they didn't have, money borrowed from the Mafia, and he'd hit her, his pregnant girlfriend, while fleeing. I didn't know, Maya whispered. He told me he was working late. Extra shifts to save for the baby. A bitter laugh escaped her throat. He left me a voicemail 2 hours ago saying he couldn't be a father. I was standing outside his apartment waiting for him when... She couldn't finish the sentence. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. Dante's jaw tightened. Where are your parents? Family? Dead. Car accident when I was 19. No siblings. No one. Maya hated how small her voice sounded. It's just me and... She placed a hand on her belly. Just us. Something shifted in Dante's expression. The fury remained, but beneath it she saw something unexpected. Recognition, perhaps, or understanding. Not anymore, he said quietly. Before Maya could process what he meant, the door burst open. A woman in her 50s with perfectly coiffed blonde hair and pearls swept into the room, followed by 2 younger men who looked enough like Dante to be his brothers. Dante Alessandro Moretti, you do not bring a pregnant woman to our medical facility without calling your mother. The woman's accent was thicker than Dante's, her eyes flashing with maternal indignation before they landed on Maya. Her expression immediately softened. Oh, you poor darling. Let me look at you. Mama, please, Dante began, but his mother was already fussing over Maya's blankets, checking her IV, smoothing her hair back from her face. Hush, Dante. This girl has been through trauma. She needs comfort, not your scowling. She cupped Maya's face with surprisingly gentle hands. I'm Francesca Moretti. These are Dante's brothers, Marco and Luca. You're safe here, Tesoro. Safe. Tears burned Maya's eyes. She couldn't remember the last time someone had touched her with such tenderness. Derek had become distant months ago, she realized now. The affection had died long before he'd physically abandoned her. Thank you, Maya managed, but I should leave. I've already caused enough trouble. Trouble? Francesca looked scandalized. A man hits a pregnant woman with his car and runs away like a coward, and you think you're the trouble? She turned to Dante. Where is this Derek? Marco is handling it, Dante replied coolly. The younger brother, Marco, Maya presumed, cracked his knuckles with a grin that was all predator. He's trying to catch a flight to Mexico. Won't make it past baggage claim. Maya should have felt horrified. These people were talking about hunting down Derek like he was prey. But all she felt was a dark satisfaction that she was too exhausted to feel guilty about. What will you do to him? She asked. Dante's eyes met hers. What would you like me to do to him? The question hung in the air. Maya thought about Derek's voicemail, his lies, the fact that he'd literally run her down while trying to escape his own mistakes, leaving her and their unborn child broken on the pavement without even checking if they'd survived. I want him to understand, she said slowly, what it feels like to lose everything. Dante's smile was sharp and approving. Consider it done. Over the next 3 days, Maya remained in Dante's facility, which, she discovered, was actually an entire floor of a luxury high-rise converted into a state-of-the-art medical center. Dr. Russo monitored her constantly. Francesca visited every morning with homemade Italian food that made Maya cry because it reminded her of her own mother's cooking. Marco and Luca took turns standing guard outside her door, though from what, Maya wasn't entirely sure. And Dante was constant. He worked from a laptop in the corner of her room, taking calls in rapid Italian that Maya couldn't follow, but found oddly soothing. He brought her books when she was bored. He held the basin when morning sickness struck. He never touched her beyond the strictly necessary, but his presence was a solid, unwavering anchor in the chaos her life had become. On the fourth morning, Maya woke to find him gone. In his place sat a lawyer, a sharply dressed woman named Victoria Chen, who carried a briefcase and an air of unflappable competence. "Miss Thompson," Victoria said briskly, "Mr. Moretti has asked me to present you with some options regarding your situation." "My situation? Derek Harmon has been located. He's currently in Mr. Moretti's custody, awaiting your decision." Victoria opened her briefcase and pulled out several documents. "You have 3 choices. 1. Pressing criminal charges for vehicular assault, reckless endangerment, and attempted vehicular manslaughter. I have 3 witnesses who saw the incident and are willing to testify. Derek would face significant prison time." Maya's hand went to her belly. Prison meant her child's father would be locked away. Did she want that? 2, Victoria continued. Civil suit for medical expenses, emotional damages, and child support. We'd bankrupt him financially, but he'd remain free. The money would be placed in a trust for your child. And 3, Victoria's expression remained neutral. Mr. Moretti handles it personally. Derek disappears. You never see him again. Your child grows up without a father, but also without the complication of a man who's proven himself dangerously unreliable. Maya's breath caught. "You're asking me to authorize a murder." "I'm asking you," Victoria corrected quietly. "What outcome allows you to sleep at night while keeping your child safe? Mr. Moretti will proceed with whatever you choose. The decision is entirely yours." The door opened before Maya could respond. Dante entered, his presence immediately filling the room. He looked at Victoria, who gathered her papers and left without a word. "I won't kill him," Dante said before Maya could speak. "Not unless you ask me to. And even then, I'd make sure you understood exactly what you were asking for." He moved to the window, his back to her. "But I need you to understand something, Maya. Derek Harmon is a coward who nearly killed you and your child to save his own skin. Men like that don't change. They don't suddenly become responsible fathers. They abandon their children the way he abandoned you. You seem very certain about that. I am." Dante turned, and the vulnerability in his expression startled her. "My father was a powerful man, controlled half this city, but he was also a coward who chose his empire over his family every single time. When I was 8, my younger sister got sick. Pneumonia. She needed medicine my mother couldn't afford. Everything was tied up in his businesses. I begged him to help. He told me family was a weakness he couldn't afford." Maya's heart clenched. "What happened?" "She died." The words were flat, emotionless, but Maya could see the grief still haunting his eyes. "I swore that day I'd never be like him. That I'd protect the people who mattered, consequences be damned. So when I saw you lying on that street, bleeding and pregnant and alone..." He shook his head. "I saw my mother. I saw my sister. I saw every person my father failed to protect because he was too concerned with himself. I'm not your responsibility, Dante. Maybe not." He moved closer, stopping at the foot of her bed. "But you're alone. Your child is innocent. And Derek Harmon is still out there making threats." Maya sat up straighter. "What threats?" "He's demanding that I forgive his debt in exchange for him pressing charges against you." "Against me? For what?" "Insurance fraud. Staging the accident to extort money from me." Dante's smile was cold. "He's desperate and stupid. A dangerous combination. Victoria's right. No matter which legal route you choose, Derek will be a problem for years. He knows about me now, about you being under my protection. He'll use that knowledge to bargain, threaten, or blackmail his way out of responsibility." Maya felt tears building. "So my choices are send him to prison, ruin him financially, or have him killed. And all 3 options mean my child grows up asking questions I can't answer." "There's a 4th option." Dante's voice dropped lower. "One Victoria didn't mention because I needed to offer it myself." "What?" He pulled something from his pocket, a small black velvet box. Maya's heart stopped as he opened it to reveal a stunning diamond ring. Simple, elegant, clearly antique. "Marry me." The words hung between them like a thunderclap. "You're insane," Maya whispered. "Practical," Dante corrected. "As my wife, you'd have my name, my protection, my resources. Your child would be legally mine. Derek would have no claim, no leverage, no reason for anyone to ever ask questions. He'd simply be a man who walked away before you met me." "But that's not true. You'd be lying to everyone. I'd be protecting you, both of you." Dante set the box on her bedside table. "This was my grandmother's ring. She gave it to my mother, who gave it to me before she died. She made me promise to only give it to a woman who needed it more than she needed me." Maya stared at the ring, her mind reeling. "This is crazy. We barely know each other. I know you're brave. I know you're alone. I know you love that child enough to stand in the rain waiting for a man who didn't deserve you." Dante's voice softened. "I know what it's like to grow up watching your mother struggle because your father was too weak to be what his family needed. I won't do that to another child. Not when I can prevent it. You don't love me." "No," he agreed quietly, "but I respect you. I admire your strength. And He hesitated, something vulnerable crossing his features. "I find myself wanting to know what it would feel like to come home to someone who wasn't afraid of me. Someone who saw me carry them through the rain and didn't see a monster." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "I can't ask you to give up your life for me. You're not asking. I'm offering." Dante moved closer, his hand hovering near hers before settling gently over her fingers. "I won't touch you unless you want me to. We'll have separate rooms. You'll have complete freedom. But you and your child will have my name, my protection, and security. No more double shifts at diners. No more counting pennies. No more being alone." "And Derek?" "Disappears. Voluntarily. Victoria will offer him a choice. $500,000 to leave the country. And never contact you again. Or face both criminal charges and my personal attention. He'll take the money. Men like him always do." Maya looked at the ring, then at Dante. This man she'd known for 4 days. This dangerous, powerful, terrifying man who'd carried her out of the rain and stayed by her bedside, and was now offering her salvation wrapped in a marriage proposal. It was insane. Reckless. Exactly the kind of impulsive decision her mother would have warned her against. But Maya thought about the voicemail, the lies, the impact of Derek's car, the way she'd felt so utterly alone in that moment, certain she was going to lose everything. And then she thought about Dante's steady presence, his mother's gentle hands, the way he'd looked at her belly with something almost reverent when he thought she was sleeping. "If I say yes," Maya said slowly, "I need to know this isn't just about guilt or some savior complex. I need to know you're not going to wake up in 6 months and resent me for trapping you. You're not trapping me. I'm choosing this." Dante's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "My whole life, I've been told that family makes you weak. That attachment is a vulnerability. But when I saw you on that street, Maya, I didn't feel weak. I felt purpose. For the first time in years, I felt like I was doing something that mattered beyond money and power and control." Maya closed her eyes, feeling the baby shift inside her. "Okay." "Okay?" She opened her eyes and met his gaze. "Ask me again." Understanding dawned on Dante's face. He picked up the ring box, then slowly lowered himself to one knee beside her bed. The gesture was absurdly formal, given her hospital gown and his 3-piece suit, but somehow it felt exactly right. "Maya Thompson," he said, his voice steady and sure. "Will you marry me? Will you let me protect you and your child? Will you give me the chance to be the man my father never was?" "Yes." The word came out barely above a whisper. "Yes. I'll marry you." Dante slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, the antique diamond catching the morning light, Before Maya could process what was happening, he lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. The first time he'd deliberately touched her with anything resembling affection. "Thank you," he murmured against her skin. "For what?" "For trusting me." The wedding happened 3 days later in Francesca's garden, a small affair with only family present. Maya wore a simple white dress that accommodated her growing belly, and Dante's brothers stood as witnesses while Francesca cried happy tears into a lace handkerchief. Derek Harmon accepted Victoria's offer and was on a plane to Argentina within 24 hours. Maya signed papers that legally severed any paternal rights or obligations. As far as the world was concerned, Derek had never existed. The first month of marriage was strange. Dante kept his word about separate rooms, about not touching her, about giving her space. But he was always there, working from home more often, joining her for meals, asking about doctor's appointments. His family embraced her completely. Francesca taught her to cook traditional recipes. Marco and Luca argued over who got to assemble the nursery furniture. Maya found herself settling into a life she'd never imagined. The penthouse apartment Dante moved her into had more square footage than every place she'd ever lived combined. She had a housekeeper, a driver, a nutritionist, and more baby clothes than one child could possibly need, all courtesy of Francesca's shopping expeditions. But it was the small moments that undid her. The way Dante had started reading pregnancy books, casually dropping facts about fetal development into conversation. How he'd rearranged his schedule to drive her to every prenatal appointment. The night she'd found him assembling a crib at 2 a.m, his jacket discarded and sleeves rolled up, utterly focused on getting every bolt perfectly tight. "You don't have to do this yourself," she'd said from the nursery doorway. "We have people. I want to." He'd looked up at her, something soft in his expression. "My father never built anything for us. Every piece of furniture in our house was assembled by servants. I want your child to know that I cared enough to do this with my own hands." Maya had cried then, hormones and emotion overwhelming her. Dante had stood and pulled her into his arms, the first real embrace since their wedding, and let her sob against his chest while he rubbed slow circles on her back. "You're a good man," she'd whispered. "I'm trying to be. For you." The thing was, Maya realized, she was falling in love with her husband. The man who'd saved her from Derek, who'd given her his grandmother's ring, who'd promised protection and delivered so much more. She just wasn't sure he felt the same way. 2 months into their marriage, Maya woke to find Dante's side of the penthouse dark. He'd been sleeping in the master bedroom's sitting room, refusing to let her be alone at night, but maintaining respectful distance. But tonight, his makeshift bed was empty. She found him in his office, surrounded by papers, his expression darker than she'd ever seen it. "Dante? What's wrong?" He looked up, and the fury in his eyes made her step back. "Derek's back." "What?" "But he took the money." "And spent it all in 6 weeks, gambling again." Dante's voice was deadly calm. "He showed up at one of my properties tonight demanding more. Said if I didn't pay him, he'd go to the press, tell them I coerced you into marriage, that the baby is his, and I'm holding you hostage." Maya's blood ran cold. "But that's true, parts of it anyway." Dante stood, moving toward her. "The baby is biologically his. I did offer you marriage when you were vulnerable. A good lawyer could spin it into a scandal that would hurt both of us, but especially you. People would think you were a gold digger, that you used your pregnancy to trap a wealthy man. We have to pay him." Maya hated how her voice shook. "We have to." "No." Dante's hands cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "We don't negotiate with cowards. We end this. Tonight. You said you wouldn't kill him unless I asked. I won't." His thumbs brushed away tears Maya hadn't realized were falling. "But I will make him disappear in a way that ensures he never comes back. Do you trust me?" Maya thought about the past 2 months. The gentleness, the protection. The way Dante had never once made her feel like an obligation, or a burden. The way he'd looked at her belly during yesterday's ultrasound with such wonder when they'd learned they were having a daughter. "I trust you," she whispered. Dante kissed her forehead, the gesture achingly tender. "Then let me handle this. And Maya, when I come back, we need to talk." He was gone for 6 hours. Maya spent them pacing the penthouse, one hand on her belly, praying that whatever Dante was doing wouldn't end with him in prison, or worse. Francesca arrived at dawn with fresh pastries and sat with her, holding her hand and murmuring reassurances in Italian. When Dante finally walked through the door, he looked exhausted but unharmed. He went straight to Maya and pulled her into his arms. "It's done. Derek signed documents that I had my lawyers draft. He confessed, on video and in writing, to the hit and run, to the gambling debts, to attempting extortion. He signed away all parental rights permanently, and he accepted a one-way ticket to a remote rehabilitation facility in Alaska, where he'll spend the next 5 years working off his actual debt to me. Alaska? Cold, isolated, no casinos within 500 miles. Dante's smile was grim. He'll have structure, therapy, and the chance to actually become a better person. Or he won't, and he'll spend 5 years freezing and miserable. Either way, he'll never bother you again." Maya sagged against him in relief. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet." Dante eased back to look at her. "I meant what I said. We need to talk." Fear spiked through her. "About what?" "About this." He gestured between them. "This marriage. This arrangement. Maya, I've spent 2 months watching you settle into my home, my life, my family. I've watched you transform that cold penthouse into something warm. I've listened to you laugh with my mother and argue with my brothers. I've felt your daughter kick against my hand when you let me touch your belly. And I've realized something." Maya held her breath. "This isn't an arrangement anymore. Not for me." Dante's voice dropped to something raw and honest. "I'm in love with you. Completely. Terrifyingly. In love with your strength and your stubbornness, and the way you hum while you cook, and how you cry at commercials. I love that you're not afraid of me, that you argue with me when you think I'm wrong, that you see the man I'm trying to be instead of the monster everyone else sees." Tears streamed down Maya's face. "Dante, I know you didn't sign up for this. You agreed to protection and security, not a husband who actually wants this marriage to be real. So I'm asking you now, Maya Thompson Moretti, if you want to stay married to me. Really married. Not because you need protection or money or my name, but because you want me. Us. This family we're building." Maya launched herself at him as much as her pregnant belly would allow, her arms wrapping around his neck. "You idiot! I've been in love with you for weeks. I just thought you were being noble, keeping your distance because you didn't actually want me that way." Dante's laugh was shaky with relief. He cupped her face in both hands, his forehead pressing against hers. "I've wanted you since the moment I saw you refusing to give up in that rain. I've wanted you every morning when you steal my coffee, even though you're not supposed to have caffeine. I've wanted you every time you fall asleep on the couch, and I get to carry you to bed. Maya, I have never wanted anything the way I want a life with you." "Then kiss me," Maya whispered. "Please. I've been waiting 2 months for you to kiss me." Dante's smile was brilliant and boyish, and so full of joy that Maya's heart ached. Then his lips met hers, and the world fell away. The kiss was gentle at first, reverent as though he was afraid she might break. But when Maya threaded her fingers through his hair and pulled him closer, demanding more, Dante groaned and deepened the kiss until they were both breathless. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "I love you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret trusting me in that rain." "I love you too," Maya breathed, "and I need you to know, this baby, our daughter, she's yours. Biology doesn't matter. You're her father. You're the one who's been here, the one who's building her crib and reading about sleep training and arguing with your mother about Italian versus English lullabies. Dante pulled back just enough to look at her, his eyes suspiciously bright. Yeah? Yeah. Maya placed his hand on her belly, where their daughter was doing her morning acrobatics. She already knows your voice. Calms down when you talk to her. She's yours, Dante. We both are. Mine, Dante repeated, the word half prayer, half promise. Then he dropped to his knees and pressed a kiss to Maya's belly. Hello, little one. Your mama just made me the happiest man alive. I promise I'm going to be the father you deserve. I'm going to protect you and love you and embarrass you at your wedding someday by crying and threatening any boy who looks at you wrong. Maya laughed through her tears, running her fingers through Dante's hair. You're going to be an amazing father. I'm going to try. He stood and swept her into his arms, carrying her toward the master bedroom. But right now, I need to take my wife to bed and show her exactly how much I love her. Doctor-approved activities only, he added with a grin. Dante Moretti, are you suggesting... I'm suggesting that we've wasted 2 months sleeping in separate spaces when we could have been falling asleep together. I'm suggesting that you deserve to wake up in your husband's arms. I'm suggesting... He laid her gently on the bed and stretched out beside her, pulling her back against his chest with one protective hand splayed across her belly. That this is where you belong. Where we both belong. Maya laced her fingers through his. This is perfect. Almost. Dante kissed the back of her neck. One more thing. What? Marry me again. A real wedding this time. Big enough that everyone knows you're mine and I'm yours. With your dress and my family and our daughter as the guest of honor. Maya twisted to look at him. We're already married. I know, but I want to stand in front of everyone who matters and vow to love you. Not to protect you or provide for you, but to love you. To be your partner. To build a life with you. His expression turned serious. I want our daughter to grow up with pictures of her parents' wedding day, where we're both smiling, like we can't believe our luck. I want her to know that her father chose her mother. Really chose her. Not out of obligation or guilt, but out of love. Yes. Maya didn't hesitate. Yes, I'll marry you again. As many times as you want. Dante's smile could have lit the entire city. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, until Maya was breathless and dizzy, and so full of happiness she thought she might burst. I love you, Maya Moretti, he whispered against her lips. I love you too. My dangerous, protective, ridiculously romantic husband. They fell asleep like that, tangled together with their daughter nestled between them, safe and loved and finally home. 3 months later, Maya stood in Francesca's garden again, this time in a flowing white gown that accommodated her 9-month belly. The garden was transformed with thousands of white roses and twinkling lights. Every seat was filled with Moretti family and associates, all standing as Maya walked down the aisle. But she only had eyes for Dante, who stood at the altar in a black tuxedo, with tears streaming unashamedly down his face. When she reached him, he took both her hands and brought them to his lips. You're beautiful. I'm huge. You're perfect. You're mine. You're everything. He turned to the priest. Can we skip to the vows? I've been waiting 3 months to say this. The priest chuckled. Go ahead, son. Dante took a breath. Maya, when I found you in the rain, I thought I was saving you. But the truth is, you saved me. You took a man who'd forgotten what it meant to be good and showed him that strength isn't about power, it's about choosing to protect the people you love. You gave me a family, a daughter, a reason to be better than my father ever was. I promise to love you every day for the rest of my life. I promise to be a father our daughter can be proud of. I promise that you'll never be alone again, not in rain, not in fear, not ever. Maya was openly sobbing now. You're making it really hard to follow that. Try anyway, Dante said with a gentle smile. Dante, you gave me everything when I had nothing. Hope when I'd given up. Love when I didn't think I deserved it. You showed me that family isn't just about biology. It's about choosing each other every single day. I promise to love you, to challenge you when you need it, to support you always, and to spend the rest of my life showing our daughter what real love looks like." The priest barely got through the pronouncement before Dante was kissing his bride, his hands gentle on her face, their daughter kicking enthusiastically between them. The crowd erupted in applause. "Ladies and gentlemen," the priest announced, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Dante Moretti. Again. And soon to be 3, Dante added, his hand on Maya's belly. Then he swept her into his arms, ignoring her protests that she was too heavy, and carried her back down the aisle while their family cheered and Francesca sobbed happily into her handkerchief. 2 weeks later, Isabella Rose Moretti entered the world at 3 a.m, weighing 7 pounds and screaming bloody murder. Dante held his daughter with shaking hands and wept openly while Maya watched her husband transform into a father before her eyes. "She's perfect," Dante whispered, tracing one finger down Isabella's tiny cheek. "She's absolutely perfect. Just like her father," Maya said softly. Dante looked up at her with so much love that Maya felt it like a physical force. Just like her mother. As dawn broke over the city, the Moretti family stood together in that hospital room, Maya exhausted and radiant, Dante fierce and gentle, and Isabella safe in her father's arms. Outside, the rain had started to fall, but inside they were warm and dry and together. And Maya thought about that night 4 months ago. The rain, the darkness, the moment she'd thought she'd lost everything. She thought about how sometimes the worst night of your life can become the doorway to the best days. How sometimes the most dangerous man can have the gentlest heart. How sometimes love doesn't announce itself with trumpets and certainty. Sometimes it comes in the rain, in strong arms, in a voice that says you're safe now and means it with every fiber of its being. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked quietly, not looking away from Isabella's face. "That I'd do it all again," Maya said. "Every scary, uncertain moment. Because they all led me here. To you. To her. To us." Dante finally tore his gaze from their daughter to look at his wife. "I love you, Maya Moretti. I love you, too. Both of you. My family." Outside the hospital, the sun broke through the clouds, painting the rain-soaked city in gold. And in room 417, the Moretti family began their new life together. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. Exactly the way love was supposed to be. But the peace they'd found wouldn't last. 3 years of blissful normalcy were about to shatter in the most terrifying way possible. Isabella was almost 3 now, a tiny hurricane of dark curls and mischief who had her father wrapped entirely around her little finger. Maya had never seen Dante so completely undone by another human being. The man who commanded fear and respect from hardened criminals turned into putty the moment his daughter smiled at him. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. Maya was at the penthouse with Isabella, making breakfast while her daughter played with blocks on the kitchen floor. Dante had left early for a meeting downtown, something about a new territory agreement with the Calabrese family. He'd kissed Maya goodbye, told Isabella to be good for Mama, and promised to be home for dinner. He never made it. The first sign of trouble came at noon when Marco burst through the penthouse door, his face pale and his usual cocky demeanor completely absent. "Maya, I need you to pack a bag. Now." Ice flooded her veins. What happened? Where's Dante? "He's been taken. We don't know by who yet, but..." Marco's jaw tightened. "It happened at the meeting. Someone ambushed them. Killed 3 of our men. Took Dante and left a message." Maya's legs nearly gave out. She grabbed the counter for support. "What message?" Marco pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph. Dante, bloodied and unconscious, chained to a chair in what looked like a warehouse, and written in red paint on the wall behind him, "An eye for an eye. Your sins have come due." "Oh God," Maya pressed her hand to her mouth. "Isabella, Needs to be somewhere safe. They know about you. About her. Mama's already at the safe house waiting. Luca's bringing the car around. Maya's mind raced even as terror threatened to overwhelm her. She scooped Isabella into her arms. Mama needs you to be very brave, baby. We're going on an adventure with Uncle Marco. Where's Papa? Isabella's brown eyes, so much like Dante's, filled with concern. Papa's working. He'll meet us soon. The lie tasted like ash, but Maya forced a smile. Can you be brave for Mama? Isabella nodded solemnly, wrapping her small arms around Maya's neck. The next 72 hours were hell. The safe house was a fortified mansion in the countryside, surrounded by armed guards. Francesca held Isabella when Maya couldn't, when the fear became too much and she had to lock herself in the bathroom to sob. Marco and Luca worked around the clock, calling in every favor and contact they had, trying to find Dante. But whoever had taken him knew what they were doing. No ransom demands, no contact. Just that single photograph and a promise of vengeance. On the third night, Maya couldn't take it anymore. She found Marco in the security room, staring at multiple monitors showing feeds from cameras around the property. Tell me who did this. Marco looked up, exhaustion evident in every line of his face. Maya, don't protect me from this. He's my husband. Tell me who took him and why. Marco was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled up a file on the computer. The face that appeared made Maya's breath catch. It was a woman, beautiful, cold-eyed, probably in her 40s. Valentina Russo, Marco said quietly. She's the widow of Antonio Russo. You remember that name? Maya's blood ran cold. The doctor who treated me when Dante found me. Dr. Russo. His son, Antonio, was the youngest, brilliant surgeon, but 5 years ago he got involved in something stupid. Tried to steal from one of Dante's operations. When Dante found out, he made an example of him. Marco's expression was grim. Antonio disappeared. Everyone assumed Dante killed him. Valentina's been building her own organization ever since, waiting for the right moment to strike back. Did Dante kill him? No, he wanted to, but Antonio fled the country first. Dante let him go, said the humiliation of running was punishment enough. Marco shook his head. But 2 years ago, Antonio died in a car accident in Spain. Valentina blamed Dante anyway. Decided his mercy was just a slower form of murder. Maya's hands clenched into fists. So she takes Dante to punish him for something he didn't even do. She takes Dante to destroy everything he loves, the way she believes he destroyed her family. Marco met Maya's eyes. She knows about you and Isabella. She knows you're what matters most to him. This isn't just about revenge. It's about making him suffer. Then we use that. Maya's voice was steady despite the terror coursing through her. We give her what she wants. Maya, no. She wants me, Marco. She wants to hurt Dante by taking his family the way she thinks he took hers. So let her come for me. Set a trap. Use me as bait. Dante would kill me himself if I put you in danger. Dante is going to die if we don't do something. Maya's voice broke. She's had him for 3 days. You know what that means. Whatever she's doing to him. She couldn't finish the sentence. The thought of Dante suffering alone, thinking they'd abandoned him, was unbearable. Marco stared at her for a long moment. Then he cursed in Italian and pulled up a map on the computer. If we do this, you follow my lead exactly. No heroics. No deviating from the plan. What plan? We let it leak that you're visiting the old penthouse tomorrow. That you're retrieving some of Isabella's things. Valentina has people watching our properties. She'll see an opportunity. Marco's expression was fierce. But we'll have 20 men positioned around the building. The moment she makes a move, we take her. And if something goes wrong, then you run. You get back to Isabella. You let us handle it. Marco gripped her shoulders. Promise me, Maya. If this goes sideways, you don't try to be a hero. You protect yourself so you can protect Isabella. That's what Dante would want. Maya thought about her daughter sleeping upstairs, curled up with her stuffed rabbit. Thought about Dante chained in some warehouse, bleeding and suffering. Thought about the life they'd built together, the family they'd become. "I promise," she lied. The next day, Maya drove to the penthouse in downtown Manhattan with a security detail that was deliberately lighter than usual. Just 2 guards, both of Marco's best men who were in on the plan. She wore a wire, carried a panic button, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. The penthouse felt empty without Dante. Maya walked through rooms filled with memories, the kitchen where they'd cooked together, the living room where Isabella had taken her first steps, the bedroom where she and Dante had fallen asleep in each other's arms just 4 nights ago. She was in Isabella's nursery, packing a bag with shaking hands, when she heard it. A scream from the living room. Gunshots. Then silence. Maya's heart stopped. She pressed the panic button and reached for her phone, but the door burst open before she could dial. 3 men rushed in, guns drawn, and behind them, elegant and terrifying, was Valentina Russo. "Maya Moretti." Valentina's voice was cultured, almost pleasant. "We finally meet. Where's Dante?" Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. "Alive. For now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on you." Valentina gestured to her men. "Bring her." They grabbed Maya roughly, zip-tying her hands behind her back. She didn't fight. Marco's men were down, possibly dead. The panic button had been pressed. Help was coming. She just had to stay alive long enough for it to arrive. They took her out through a service entrance, avoiding the main lobby where Marco's people were positioned, into a waiting van. Maya was thrown into the back, her head cracking against the metal floor. Pain exploded through her skull, but she forced herself to stay conscious, to pay attention to every turn, every sound. The drive felt endless. When they finally stopped, rough hands dragged her out into a warehouse that smelled of rust and decay, and there, chained to a support beam in the center of the space, was Dante. He looked like hell. His face was swollen and bruised, blood crusting his split lip and temple. But when his eyes found hers, they blazed with fury and fear. "Maya!" "No, God, no." How touching. Valentina circled them like a predator. The great Dante Moretti, brought to his knees by a woman. My Antonio would have found that poetic. "Valentina, please." Dante's voice was hoarse. "Let her go. This is between us. She has nothing to do with what happened with your husband." "She has everything to do with it," Valentina's composure cracked. "You took the man I loved. You humiliated him, drove him away. He died alone in a foreign country because of you. So now you'll know what that feels like. You'll watch me take her from you. You'll know you're the reason she dies." Maya met Dante's eyes, saw the devastation there, the guilt, the absolute terror. And she knew in that moment that whatever happened, she had to protect him from this, from the weight of her death on his conscience. "He didn't kill your husband," Maya said clearly. "Antonio ran. Dante let him go. If your husband died in Spain, that's on him, not Dante." Valentina whirled on her. "Lies." "I've seen the reports. Marco showed me. Antonio died drunk driving on a highway outside Madrid. He ran a red light and hit a truck. That's not murder. That's consequence." Maya held Valentina's gaze. "You want revenge for something that wasn't Dante's fault. You want to blame him because the alternative is accepting that your husband destroyed himself." The slap came hard enough to snap Maya's head to the side. Blood filled her mouth. But she kept talking. "Dante has a daughter. She's 3 years old. Her name is Isabella. She loves her father more than anything in the world. If you kill me, if you kill him, you're doing to her exactly what you claim Dante did to you. You're taking away her family, making her an orphan. Is that really the justice you want? Shut up. Valentina's hand shook as she pulled a gun from her jacket. "You don't get to talk about my pain. You don't get to—" The warehouse door exploded inward. Everything happened at once. Marco burst through with 20 armed men. Valentina's guards opened fire. Maya threw herself sideways as bullets tore through the space where she'd been standing. She hit the ground hard, her bound hands making it impossible to catch herself. Through the chaos, she saw Dante. He'd somehow gotten one hand free from his chains and was fighting with the guard nearest to him, trying to get to a weapon, trying to get to her. "Dante!" Maya screamed as one of Valentina's men raised his gun toward her husband, but Marco was faster. The shot echoed through the warehouse. Valentina's guard dropped. Marco was already moving, taking down another man, his team spreading out with military precision. Valentina grabbed Maya, hauling her up and pressing the gun to her temple. "Everyone stops or she dies!" The warehouse went silent. Marco froze. Dante stopped struggling, his eyes locked on the gun against his wife's head. "Let her go, Valentina." Marco's voice was calm, controlled. "It's over. You're surrounded. There's no way out of this." "I don't need a way out. I just need her dead." Valentina's voice was brittle, breaking. "I need him to know what it feels like to lose everything." Maya felt the cold press of metal against her skin, heard Dante's strangled cry, saw Marco's finger tightening on his trigger, calculating angles, trying to figure out if he could take the shot without hitting her. And Maya thought about Isabella, about her daughter growing up without a mother, about Dante having to explain to their little girl that he couldn't save her, about the guilt that would consume him for the rest of his life. She thought about the night in the rain, about Dante carrying her to safety, about the way he'd looked at her when he said, "You're safe now," and meant it with every fiber of his being. She thought about 3 years of happiness, of love, of a family she'd never thought she'd have. And Maya made her choice. She threw her weight backward, slamming into Valentina. The gun went off. Pain erupted in Maya's shoulder, white-hot and consuming. But Valentina stumbled, her grip loosening. Marco's shot came a heartbeat later, catching Valentina in the chest. Maya hit the ground. Blood spread across her shirt, warm and sticky. She could hear Dante screaming her name, hear the sound of chains breaking as he tore himself free through sheer force of will. Then he was there, his battered hands pressing against her wound, his face above hers painted with terror. "Stay with me. Maya, stay with me. Help is coming." "You're going to be fine. You have to be fine." "Isabella," Maya whispered. Blood bubbled at her lips. "Promise me. Don't you dare. Don't you dare say goodbye to me." Dante's voice broke. "You don't get to leave us. You hear me? Our daughter needs her mother. I need my wife. You stay with me, Maya. You stay." Marco was already calling for medical. Maya could hear sirens in the distance, but the world was getting fuzzy around the edges, darkness creeping in. "I love you," she managed. "Tell Isabella." "You tell her yourself." Dante pressed his forehead to hers, his tears falling on her face. "You stay alive, and you tell her yourself. Please, baby, please don't leave me. I can't do this without you." Maya wanted to promise, wanted to tell him she'd fight, but the darkness was so heavy, pulling her down. Her eyes fluttered closed. "No! Maya, no! Open your eyes. Look at me." Dante's voice seemed far away now. "I love you. Do you hear me? I love you more than anything. You're everything. Please, please stay." The last thing Maya heard before the world went black was Dante's voice, broken and desperate, begging her to survive. She woke up 2 days later in a private hospital room. The first thing she saw was Dante slumped in the chair beside her bed, his hand wrapped around hers, his face pressed against their joined fingers. He looked like he hadn't slept since the warehouse. "Dante," Maya whispered, her throat raw. His head snapped up. For a moment he just stared at her, as though afraid she was a hallucination, Then he was moving, his hands framing her face, his eyes searching hers with desperate intensity. "You're awake. You're really awake." His voice was wrecked. "The doctors said you might not, that the blood loss was so severe." He couldn't finish, just pressed his forehead to hers and breathed. "You scared me. God, Maya, you scared me." "Isabella?" Maya's hand went to her shoulder, where bandages covered the gunshot wound. "She's fine. She's with Mama. She doesn't know how bad it was. We told her you had an accident, but that you're okay." Dante pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "You saved my life. When you threw yourself at Valentina, you gave Marco the opening he needed. If you hadn't," his jaw clenched, "but you could have died. You almost did die." "Maya, what were you thinking?" "That I'd rather die than watch her kill you." Maya's hand found his face, her thumb brushing over a healing bruise on his cheek. "That Isabella needs at least one of us. That I couldn't let you carry the guilt of my death. That I love you more than I'm afraid of dying." Dante made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. He kissed her then, gentle despite the emotion pouring through him. Careful of her injuries, but desperate to feel her alive and real beneath his hands. "Don't ever do that again," he whispered against her lips. "Don't ever risk yourself like that. I won't survive losing you." "Then I guess we're even," Maya said softly, "because I can't survive losing you either. So we both stay alive. We both fight. We both come home to our daughter. Deal?" "Deal." Dante kissed her again, slower this time. "Marco took care of Valentina's organization. The few who survived are scattered. It's over, Maya. Really over." "We're safe." "All of us?" "All of us." He placed her hand over his heart, where she could feel it beating strong and steady. "You, me, and Isabella. Our family. Safe." The door burst open and Francesca rushed in, Isabella clutched in her arms. The moment Isabella saw Maya, she started crying and reaching for her. "Mama! Mama!" Dante carefully lifted their daughter onto the bed, supporting her so she wouldn't hurt Maya. Isabella threw her small arms around Maya's neck and sobbed. "I missed you, Mama. You were gone so long." "I know, baby. I'm sorry." Maya held her daughter as tight as she dared, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "But I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." Isabella pulled back to look at her mother seriously. "Papa said you were very brave. That you protected him." Maya looked at Dante over their daughter's head. He was watching them with such love, such fierce protectiveness, that it took her breath away. "Papa protected me, too," Maya said. "We protect each other. That's what families do." "And I'll protect you both when I'm big," Isabella declared. "Uncle Marco is teaching me how to punch." "He's what?" Maya looked at Dante in alarm. Dante had the grace to look sheepish. "She asked. After I came home hurt. She wanted to know how to keep bad people away. She's 3. "She's a Moretti," Francesca said from the doorway, her voice warm with affection. "Of course she wants to protect her family. It's in the blood." Maya started to protest, then looked at her daughter's determined expression, at Dante's protective stance, at Francesca's proud smile, at the family that had embraced her completely, that had risked everything to save her. "Fine," she conceded, "but no weapons until she's at least 5. "Deal," Dante said immediately, then added under his breath, "We'll revisit at 4. Maya would have argued, but Isabella was already chattering about her day, about the cookies Nona had made, about how she'd drawn a picture for Mama that was hanging on the refrigerator at home. And Dante was smiling, the fear finally fading from his eyes as he watched his girls together. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in their penthouse kitchen while Dante cooked dinner and Isabella did her coloring at the table. Her shoulder still ached sometimes, but the doctor said she'd make a full recovery. No permanent damage. Just another scar to add to the collection life had given her. "You're thinking too loud," Dante said, not looking up from the sauce he was stirring. "Just remembering," Maya admitted, She moved to stand beside him, her head resting against his arm. That night in the rain, how scared I was. How alone I felt. Dante set down the spoon and turned to face her, his hands gentle on her waist. And now? Maya looked past him to where Isabella was carefully coloring inside the lines, her tongue stuck out in concentration. Looked at the home they'd built together. The life they'd fought for. Now I'm exactly where I belong, she said. Scars and all. Safe and loved. With my family. Dante kissed her forehead. Always. No matter what comes. We face it together. Together, Maya echoed. And as the sun set over the city, painting their kitchen in golden light, the Moretti family sat down to dinner. Not perfect, not without scars or history, or the ghosts of battles fought, but whole, together, and finally, permanently, at peace.